वैसे जोशी जी स्मार्ट हैं,
हम तो छोटे हैं, मैं वही कहने वाला था, ऊंचे लोग तो ऊंचे रहेंगे। हम आर्टिफिशियली जितना भी ऊंचा कर लिया उनको कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ेगा।
अच्छा दिख रही है।
ये भी उतनी हाइट होगी यार, फर्क थोड़ी है, चलो ठीक है।
शुरू करो यार, बहुत हमारे आप पे ठीक है नहीं है।
So they have their own nuisance value, the production people.
ठीक है सीधा कर दे। ठीक अरे ठीक है, हाँ ठीक है, चलो ठीक है,
सब कुछ ठीक है, चिंता मत कर।
ठीक है।
If you are watching this program, you surely are in the league of the serious and sincere contenders for pursuing a rewarding and fulfilling career in engineering. Merely getting an admission to one or the other engineering colleges in some or the other disciplines doesn't really open up the charms as well as the challenges which a career in engineering presents. In today's era of technological convergence, coupled with covert and overt global upheavals, you need to strategize and plan your long-drawn career into a much more broader sense. You need to think and appreciate the emerging and non-conventional ideas and approaches. Most importantly, you have to focus your attention very early on the interface of engineering education, industry, and economy. This Why Engineering series would help you get that unique and rare insight into the real state of affairs which would be driving and shaping your life all through. I welcome you all to this interesting, illumining and intriguing series. Today we have with us Professor R.K. Khandal, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Uttar Pradesh Technical University, which probably happens to be world's largest university, affiliating over 1,000 institutions. A man of chemistry, Professor Khandal has a long cherished academic and research career spanning over 3 decades. A mentor, a teacher, and above all, an innovator. Professor Khandal is known to convert ideas into reality. He has that unique knack to debottleneck any manufacturing process, and he is proactive in adopting novel and innovative approaches. We have also with us Mr. Pramod Joshi, who is currently an advisor to the Chancellor of the GLA University, located in the fabled city of Mathura, better known to be the birthplace of Shri Krishna. Mr. Joshi again is a coveted trainer, consultant, and a writer par excellence. His pursuit of knowledge took him to university at this advanced stage all over again, whereby he is pursuing his PhD in higher education at the Department of Economics at the Delhi University. I welcome both our panelists today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sir,
Mr.
Mr. Joshi, my first question to you, having your global exposure, like what is the scope and expanse of careers after getting armed with an engineering degree?
Yeah, I think you started off by talking about why engineering. In fact, I would turn the question into a different one and say why not engineering? Because frankly, if you look at any aspect of living today, we find that engineering is in medical healthcare, it is in IT, it is in civil construction, in security. So I would say that globally the demand for engineering skills is not only good and high, but will continue to go up. In fact, there are statistics from the US Labor Department that says that the demand for software engineers, if you look at only software engineering, will grow at the rate of 30% per annum till 2020 at least. So globally as well as in India, given the way the economy is going and given the way technology has made its way into almost every facet of human life, I think engineering is going to remain evergreen subject.
Sir, very well said. In the global context, my next question would be to Professor Khandal. Sir, there has been a marked shift in the global scheme of things, whereby it is seen that the high-end research and innovation-led economic growth has got concentrated in certain geographies as well as nationalities. And very many artificial barriers are considered like they are being imposed in front of those emerging ones. Now, in the context of India, which is being seen as an emerging nation, how do you see this shift of transferring the high-end research and innovation-led economic growth in this part of the globe?
First of all, I must thank you, Mr. Mittal, for this wonderful series that you have started.
Thank you, sir.
It is very important for the present scenario where the developments are happening at different stages and different phases in the world. And as has been said by you and Professor Joshi, why engineering is because we need innovations. Why engineering is because we have so many problems. So if we divide the whole world in 3 classes, like the developed world, developing world, and underdeveloped world, for developed world we need engineering for sustainability. For developing world we need engineering for having an edge over the others and capture the markets which are there. And for the poor people to find out solutions for their problems. Now, solutions to the problems of poor have to be found out in a manner which are not for the developed nations. Now, who will find them out? They would be found out by the engineers. So, as long as you have problems of different dimensions, different degree, you require engineers. Hence, the situation is that you need engineers, first point. The second point is about innovation. In last 5 years, what we have seen is all over the world, almost every country has drawn their science and technology policy where innovation has been included as an integral and inherent part. India announced its science and technology policy 2013, which is the latest, and Professor Manmohan Singh announced it in January 2013, saying that it is science and technology innovation 2013 policy. Now, when you say innovation, who will do innovation? Innovation will not be done by robots. Innovation would be done by the students of engineering, students of science in the universities. So, if you want innovations to happen, and innovations are necessary, we know, for the growth and for the sustainable growth, we need engineers. And all those engineers, to be able to innovate, you need to have ecosystem specific to the environment. Like I come from UP Technical University, which is in UP. UP has its own problems. First, the population, 20% of the country, which is again 20% of the world. So you have the largest manpower in the world existing concentrated in one state of this country, where you need to channelize that energy. Because remember one thing, Mr. Mittal, we can export only one item, and that is manpower. India cannot export petrol. India cannot export agri products in spite of the fact that we are number one, number two in many of the products. Milk, grains, basmati rice, so many things we are number one. We can't export because we have to feed 1,200 million stomachs every day and day after day for years together, and this number is increasing. So what is the solution? Solution is we channelize this manpower. Instead of taking this as a problem and as a burden, we channelize that in a manner that they become good engineers. And they not only solve the problems of the indigenous situation, but they also solve the problems all over the world. So that, in my opinion, in nutshell, is why engineering and this engineering leading to innovation is the key for sustainable growth for not only developing poor but also for the developed world.
So if you see post-recession in the year 2008, there has been a little increase in the indigenous job market, and post the global recession, the companies who were giving jobs in the country, they were also retreating a lot of such opportunities. Now the point is, what specific interventions in the framework of UP Technical University?
Very good question, Mr. Mittal. Let me tell you one thing. The biggest danger to engineering is that the engineers getting into management. You would see all over the world, none of the engineers is being retrenched. Those fellows who are retrenched are the fellows who are actually non-engineers. They are in the desk job. Those who are on desk job, they are retrenched. That's why in UP Technical University, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to encourage.
आप ज़्यादा मूवमेंट मत करो, एक्चुअली ऑडियो में ना वो धुंधम आवाज़ आती है। तो कैमरा पे वो लेवल माइक और एडजस्ट कर लेंगे? नहीं,
मैं तो धुंधम कर ही रहा हूँ यहाँ।
आप कुछ
माइक थोड़ा नीचे करता है। लेवल माइक टाइम नहीं लगता है।
ये मेरी टाई जरूर हो सकता है, मैंने पहले कहा था टाई के ऊपर कर लो।
टाई में लगाया, नीचे क्यों लगाया?
ये मैंने कहा था टाई उससे टच करेगी।
हाँ, वो
टाई पे ही तो लगा रहा हूँ।
बार-बार हिल रहा है ना, उससे वो ऑडियो डिस्टर्बेंस आ रही है।
तो सारा रिकॉर्ड गलत है, दोबारा करना पड़ेगा।
नहीं, अभी डिस्कशन में हो रही है, मैंने एक आध बीच में आया था, ये वाला यहाँ से
ठीक है, इनका सर का सही है।
ये सही है,
ये सही है।
उनका सही जगह पे लगाया, मैंने उसी समय बोला था यार।
makes sense because every time a camera is capturing this camera is capturing
क्वेश्चन
only
जो आपने पूछा ना दोबारा क्वेश्चन
But when I was speaking to him, somebody there asked me to look there. Okay.
Sir, it's really interesting, like from why engineering to why not engineering. How in the UPTU context, specifically in the context of the world's largest technical university, you are channelizing the creative energies of its vast talent pool to solve the problems of one of the biggest states on earth?
See, we are working on different stages and different steps. The first and foremost thing is we are trying to educate our students, trying to counsel them that they should not just go for package. Because there is a trend here in this country and also elsewhere that the students, before even they pass out with their BTech degree, they start asking for what is the package. What we are trying to counsel the students is that instead of looking for package, they should look for the job opportunities in terms of the higher education. Like in US and in Europe, there are so many vacant seats for master's degree. These engineers from India, they should, instead of looking for immediate jobs from the BTech, after the BTech degree, they should go for master's degree in US, and there are so many positions. And interestingly, the other day I was there in Indianapolis University in US, and I was surprised that 80% of the positions of master's degree are captured by Chinese. And it's only about 20% which are there with Indians. Now, this is one thing that we are doing with the students. Instead of just going for job, they should do this. Second thing is, the biggest problem with UP Technical University is because of their background of Hindi, they always suffer from, being not being able to so communicative in English. Unfortunately, all people who come to hire these engineers, young engineers, they actually want them to speak in English. So we are trying to tell the industry people that for God's sake, don't actually evaluate them based on how they speak. Because in my opinion, engineers are not supposed to speak. Engineers are supposed to actually do with their hands. Engineers are supposed to work with their mind, not with their tongue. They are not politicians. So this is the second aspect we are trying to do it. Of course, at the same time, we are trying to brush up our students with proper communication skills, and communication not just by verbal, but by writing and also by demonstrative in terms of doing projects. The third thing we are doing in UP Technical University is that we are trying to create a culture in which we are involving the engineers working in industry. This is a new concept that we have brought in, and this is a concept which is going to pay dividends in time to come. Now the concept is like this. We talk always that we are lack of faculty. This idea came from the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of engineers who actually are in institution of engineers, different engineering streams. They are working in industries. Now they are working in the industries, but they don't have linkage with the education. So we are trying to sign an MOU with the institution of engineers that all their engineers working in different industries, different streams, they would become our visiting professors.
Okay.
Now this way what will happen is the young engineers, they will find one mentor. The second thing is they will learn from them directly. So the skill development, the vocationality, the problem solving capability, this all will happen automatically, matter of factly. The last point is that when we do this, our engineers will be exposed to the areas where the real problem exists, because these mentors will take them. I give you the example. For example, metro. Now when they see an engineer heading the metro, like Mangu Singh ji, who is a civil engineer, who is from one of the IITs, he is heading metro. When they see an engineer is heading this, so one mentoring is done. The second thing is they get an opportunity to go to different areas of, like their washing area, their servicing area, their signal system, their electronic system, their software system, all that they get exposure to. So this is the way we are trying to create an ecosystem where students get directly linked with the industry through their mentors who are the engineers who become actually our visiting professor. The other thing which we have introduced in the UP Technical University is about building various institutes of UPTU having Tod Phod Jod centers.
Okay.
Now Tod Phod Jod centers basically are innovation centers in a way. Now what we are asking, we have asked every institute, and many of our institutes have already put in. They bring, for example, a vehicle, say for example Suzuki. All the students open up the vehicle, that is Tod. Then they break their parts, that is Ford, and then they themselves reassemble it and do it. And they in their own style. So that means the design basis, design criteria, design capability, the performance of improvements, innovation, all that will happen.
So much
matter
of
fact.
transcendence in just less than 2 years of coming over as the Vice Chancellor of the university. It's really encouraging, sir.
This is because I tell you, other than you please understand one very simple thing. Only 10% of the engineers produced in India come from institutes like IIT, NIT, etc. And remember, 80% of the budget of government of India goes there. And it is 20% of the budget which goes to other institutes which are not in that category. And it is there where the chunk of the engineers are coming. UP Technical University is unique and better than many of the universities is because of simple fact that we have private institutions where the edupreneurs are really visionary. They have put in, they have a lot of things at stake, not just for making money, but actually for creating knowledge. And let me tell you, if India has to survive, it has to survive only on knowledge economy. We cannot survive based on, we had revolution which is green revolution, white revolution. Now it is like Modi ji says, pink revolution, that is a knowledge revolution, energy revolution. So that will happen only by states like UP, that will happen only by universities like UPT.
Sir, I would move on to our next segment, which is the courses in engineering. Reports like Engineering UK, which analyze in greater detail about the various jobs available and the various the number and the quality of engineering students in various branches of engineering, they emphasize a lot about the local economy. Now in the context of India and especially in the context of Uttar Pradesh, how do you think that how relevant is our engineering education today to meet out the local and the regional challenges of the economy, which are more getting dependent on scientific and technological innovations?
See, I think as Professor Khandal said, UP represents a very large percentage of India's population, which in turn represents a very large percentage of the global population. I would like to see UP as a source of engineers who not only meet local and regional challenges, but global challenges. I think the fact that UPTU itself is a very large university, and then there are private universities that have come up in the state of UP. I think there may be about 10 or 12 that initially started off as institutions within UPTU. For example, GLA University. It used to be an institution under UP Technical University and now has become a full-fledged private university. So I think UP can service not just the regional ambitions, but also national and international ambitions. We have enough manpower, and given the right kind of innovative ecosystem that Professor Khandal spoke about, I think the fact that this Jod Tod Ford thing is happening, what is it all about? It's about getting students to work with their hands. Theoretical knowledge is something you can pick up in the classroom, but you have to step out of your comfort zone, get your hands dirty. So if we can inculcate in our engineering students in UP regional mindset of working on regional challenges, but also being aware of what's happening around the world. Because I see no reason, for example, a software engineer studying at GLA University or let's say a college under UPTU University needs to limit his ambitions. We had, for example, at GLA University recently, a Japanese company which works on gaming software come and pick up 2 computer science students at a fairly attractive package. Why did they come all the way? Because they see that one small city in UP is able to provide just the 2 engineers that are going to service their needs. So I would say UP should dream big. Certainly local challenges are important. There is sanitation, there is transportation, I think engineering, construction of
What about the local
irrigation.
SMEs? What kind of support which universities like you can give to the industries which are in the local vicinity?
Very good question. In fact, SMEs are often starved of engineering talent because of the economics of it. Big companies can afford to hire engineers, paying them 4 lakhs per annum or 5 lakhs per annum. SMEs do not have the kind of economics. Now, and also, SMEs usually don't need a full-fledged BTech. So therefore, we also have a concept of engineering diplomas, where a polytechnic can service the needs of SMEs, where you provide students who have a diploma in civil or mechanical or electrical or even electronics, and they come out and service the needs of the SME, which is a very vibrant segment in UP.
So would you like to reflect upon
I
it?
just want to what Professor Joshi has said, I just would like to elaborate. You see how the medical science has been growing. Each medical institute has a hospital nearby. And a doctor, when he comes out of the institute with a degree, he actually day in, day out, he is subjected to patients, seeing how the operations are done. On the other hand, in the case of engineering education, we don't have institutes attached to the industry. And that is where the scope of SMEs come into the picture. Now see how unique UP is. UP is unique because number one, the people who are there in UP till the other day, not educated people. But these people were skilled people. So you will see maximum number of handicrafts, maximum number of skilled workforce doing very designing things with their own hands. Actually, they exist there. Now, if you are able to club that with the university education system, that means the formal education, that is you produce engineers, plus the non-formal education that you have all these fellows who are doing with their handworks. For example, we have a course called automobile engineering, right? We can teach them all the theory that is there in the class, but the real learning happens when the job is done in the workshop. Job is done on the assembly line of the automobiles, automobile machinery, painting, paint shop. Now, if we are able to club this together, and that is what we are trying to do, UP Technical University, we are bringing it closer to
This is where the spectre of employability, which is
absolutely
hurting us severely, would get redressed.
Absolutely. Now you see one thing, how they do it in Europe and America. How is MIT developed? MIT goes into small places. Of course, US is already at a platform which is already developed. But even there, MIT goes to micro and small, medium enterprises. They go there, the students go and work with them. And this is what we are trying to do it in UPTU. In UP, for example, we have agriculture, we have milk, we have handicrafts. All these areas, food processing is one area in which we are focusing. Packaging is one industry. If you have more food to be packaged, so you need packaging industry. These are the areas which we are focusing on. Plus remember, we can only export one raw material, and that is manpower. And that UP is the largest, we have plenty. So that is what it is.
Sir, coming from such generalized questions, we'll move on. In UP in particular and India in general, the engineers who are coming probably are of the first generation. They don't have even any engineer in their families long back. Now, choosing a branch of engineering in an era of convergence is really confusing for them. In fact, the other day we were analyzing the host of courses which are available, 212 of them which are AICTE approved, and there are electronics and communications engineering, electronics and instrumentations. So largely there are 4 or 5 major clusters. What advice would you like to give to the students as to what kind of branch, what kind of discipline they should choose and how to go about it?
See, if you see the economy of India, it is very clear that there are 4 or 5 pillars of the economy. Okay. In the 4 or 5 pillars, the first and foremost thing is the infrastructure. It is very evidently clear that in infrastructure you have mechanical engineers required, you have civil engineers required, and that is where you don't have much of, now branches like electronics and communication engineering, not much of demand, but for the simple fact that you don't have much industry. It's a chicken and egg situation. If you don't have industry, you don't require engineers, demand for engineers is less. If you have more engineers, automatically industries will come and place themselves there. So in UP Technical University, how do we do this is based on these pillars of economy of India. The first I told is the infrastructure. The second one is infrastructure includes the highways, all the kind of fiber network, all the kind of bridges, the airports, and all that is capabilities we are building up. So all engineering streams required for that. The second one is the bread and butter, that is the agriculture, and that is social economy. So there again, all the engineering areas which are there, the students will go into it. But things like streams like IT, okay, like computer applications, it is getting saturated because some of the courses which were actually in the beginning, we had all these courses having requirements, but now they are getting saturated, like Master of Computer Applications. It's getting competing with the other course, and the students then they drift away from MCA and they go for BTech. So these are the areas in which there is an area of concern. But basically these streams which are catering to the 5 basic main pillars of economy of India, that is where the students are going. And civil engineering, for example, is one thing in which then we'll have material engineering. Then the value addition, innovation will come. So all these branches where you will have.
So we do have a engineering entrance examination for the students which tests the acumen of the students, whether they are fit for engineering courses or not, but nothing formal advising the students particular aptitude in a particular branch of engineering. There are cases when students say, "Oh, मैं तो ये नहीं पढ़ना चाहता था, पर मुझे ये पढ़ना पड़ रहा है," and then they spoil their 4 years. And so, do you propose something of this sort?
See, what we have started doing is, this is again the handiwork of our own institutes, the edupreneurs who have come out with visionary approaches. What they try to do is, before the students appear for the exam, they have started conducting programs.
Okay.
Immediately 1 or 2 months program in their colleges premises. Now they counsel them, they teach them. The students who are not interested in a particular area, then that is filtered out at that point. But yes, this remains a problem because the parents force the children. But the scenario is changing. Now the parents also agree what the student want to do it. But to bridge the gap, to make the student understand better, our institutes are conducting programs for a month or 2 during the summer before they appear.
That's probably a larger problem to address. What specifically you propose to do, you are doing at your university, which has now got an autonomous status?
See, when it comes to the choice to be made, there are 2 ways you can look at it. One is, what is the market and which discipline of engineering is in high demand. So I think Professor Khandal talked about it. Infrastructure will need civil and mechanical engineers. The fact that computers are in almost every sphere of life means there will be demand for hardware, networking and software engineers in the foreseeable future. The other way to look at it is from the interest of the student. at the age of 17 or 18, when the student is asked to make a choice, it is very difficult for him to say, I want to do mechanical or civil or, you know, when I went to IIT BHU, it was IIT BHU at that time, electronics was the talk of the town. And I had a good JE rank, so I was able to get electronics. But many of my other classmates did mechanical. They did extremely well in their careers. It is only when you are in those 4 years that you realize that it's not as much the branch that is important. It is the way of thinking like an engineer that builds your capabilities.
So still it's the generic engineering concepts.
I
which
would
build
say
up
that.
over a
I would
period
say
of
that.
4
And
years.
especially in the post-graduation is when you really start falling in love with a small sub-segment. So mechanical engineering you do, and then maybe you decide that it's automotive engineering that you want to go into, or robotics, or even industrial engineering. So I would say that at the age of 17 or 18, I would recommend the parents and the students to just read what's happening in the world, try and get interested in a few things. If you're interested in knowing about marine architecture, maybe you are interested in ships. So look at the possibility of going and doing mechanical for now and then going into naval architecture in the future.
See, there are two,
Sir.
sorry to
Sir,
intervene here,
yeah.
there are two aspects of it, please understand. One thing is the degree that you call it. Then what is the degree you call? The student says, I'm a mechanical engineer. Or he says mechanical engineering automation. Or he says production engineering and automation, which is actually largely mechanical, electrical, electronics, software. The point is, one is the degree that you call. The second is the syllabus. What you build in the syllabus. And then the embedded systems, you know. So there are both kind of trends which are happening. In UP Technical University, we are debating this way, that we have embedded programs where by the name itself looks attractive. The other way is maybe the program is generic, but the courses are embedded in a manner that when they appear for the interview, the fellow who is interviewing them finds, wow, he knows this also. He knows this. He's just not typically mechanical engineer, but he also has a little bit of electrical, little bit of electronics and computer science. So this is what we are trying to do it in UP Technical University.
In fact, the branch of mechatronics is a classic example where the industry needed to embed a lot of electronics in mechanical devices, whether it's cars or
Absolutely.
anything. So then they said, okay, mechanical and electronics, like Professor Khandal says, build in electives. And now there is a stream called mechatronics. Tomorrow there might be civitronics because
Bilkul,
there are
bilkul,
electronics
absolutely.
devices which are being put into buildings.
But don't you feel that there is a need to sensitize and educate the prospective engineering students about these upcoming benefits, because
Absolutely.
lot of investment of the parents and the students at large
Absolutely.
go at this stage, and when
See,
it's an investment for lifetime.
See, Mittalji, let me tell you one thing. The students will be attracted to an engineering by seeing the package, etc. is one thing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, how you teach, because this is one aspect which we have not covered yet, and that is to be emphasized is the pedagogy. How the students are taken into the whole process of education, that is what going to attract. Because remember, no matter what all counseling you do to the students follow their seniors. The fellow who is in 4th year, he will tell the first year students, take this will be better. And many of us
But sir,
must.
in a bulk educational system, when we have, like in UP, we had just limited number of seats and limited number of institutions just 15 years back. When educational product has to go a product way, this one-on-one kind of a treatment.
No,
the-
not
the- the
one-on-one.
culture.
I'm not saying one-on-one. What I'm saying is the pedagogy in a manner, as I just explained to you. You bring engineers from different industries and take your professors. In fact, we are trying to do this way that we will get the fellow who is not at all having the formal education, like a fellow who overhauls engines. For example, you bring him in the laboratory. He will teach your students, open up the engine, show how the engine is opened, because even your professors cannot open an engine. And an electrical engineer may not be able to rewind a machine, a motor.
That kind of industry interfaces
kind of
within the
inter-
academic institution
This-
will
this
open up the vistas, and
This is what the way you educate the students, that will attract. And that is what is happening, because many of the students want to go and study there. UP Technical University students want to go and study there is because they have enjoyment. You make the education enjoyable, that is more important than making them feel that they will get a package. Let me tell you, no matter what the package is there, if the education is not enjoyable, and that is where the pedagogy is very important. UP Technical University is focusing a lot on the pedagogy. That is what is very important for us.
maybe pedagogy at
yeah.
your university.
Yeah, Raghav, I mean, if you also look at it today, a student has far more sources to look at. He goes on the web to see, there are magazines. portals that tell you more about which branch, what opportunities, etc. So there is one general counseling that is happening at a very, I would say, global scale. But then individualized counseling does have a role to play. And for example, at our university, at GLA University, where I'm an advisor, for the last 2 seasons, our teachers have been going out, and during the admissions season, they are actually meeting students, trying to answer their questions about a specific branch, and also advising them, some people may not be cut out
The
for
large
engineering.
orientation programs which Professor
So there
Khandar
is
was talking
yeah,
about.
so there's a filtration process. Sometimes you have to tell the students, maybe you're not cut out for engineering, you might want to look at basic sciences or look at a BBA. So that kind of a counseling does have a role to play, though the students can go and look up umpteen websites.
Well,
See-
for the sake
see,
of
one
yeah,
one
please, sir.
point,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mittal,
Sir.
before we actually end, I must say, the biggest thing that the government of India and the policymakers of India must focus is that we must de-link ourselves from the number of marks a student has secured with the capability of being an engineer.
Okay.
In my opinion, you see, I just cite this example to everybody. In IITs, and that is where it is related to value addition also. In IITs, we have the minimum percentage marks with which the student is admitted is 85%. And by the time he comes out of IIT, he is 60% level. In UP Technical University, minimum percentage marks is 45%. And when he gets out of the university, he is 65%. What I am saying is that too much of emphasis on the number of marks being seen as the capability of a student being able to become an engineer or not is not the right thing.
So
I think
no, we are suggesting that we were just on the
No, I'm not saying you are
There is a
suggesting.
persisting predicament of the parents at large and the students at large who come as a first generation engineers, ki whether should I become a civil engineer or a computer engineer or a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer. Now at that level in the tier 2 and tier 3 towns, when that kind of information and knowledge is not there, so probably that's an area where we have to further up our efforts, because in our stratified academic system, whatever branch you choose in the first year, you are not allowed to change it in second years, because
the point which I was trying to emphasize, I perhaps
Sir.
did not put it properly. In India, those who are from IITs and NITs, they kind of like boss over those who are not from IITs. Okay. Now, what happens is they kind of become the the preachers. Now, the moment they start becoming preacher, the institute like ours in UP Technical University, they feel lower down. What we are trying to do it in UP Technical University is working with the teachers and with the students. Don't yourself feel lower down.
Okay.
Okay. You are capable of becoming an engineer. And how do we do it? We do it at the inspirational level basis. We do it at the challenge level basis. You give little challenges to the students. I have been to the institutes where students have themselves devised so many equipment,
Yes.
small devices for the agriculture, for the farmers. Now, this is what will take them up. This is what I am saying.
so the
I
raising
mean,
the morale of the students at
Absolutely,
large
is very
and
important.
giving them the confidence that they can also add value to their
Absolutely.
local vicinity, to
Absolutely.
their regional areas and national and global,
Absolutely.
they can make a dent.
And
over
this
there.
is how this Tod Ford Jod is actually playing a big role. Because then they are able to demonstrate themselves, we can do this. For example, an electronics engineer, can he go and repair a watch? We are trying to ask the electronic engineer fellow, go and see how the fellow repairs a watch. Sit down and spend a day or two, a week with a fellow, those who repair watches, In India, you can get any kind of watch and get it repaired. In India, we have so many repairers. You have any laptop of any company, it can be repaired in India. You go to any other part of the world, you won't be able to get the laptop repaired. But in India, you can get it repaired. That means these fellows have skills, engineering skills.
So this basically answers my next question, which I would have said that the expansion of such a large number of institutions has probably enabled the nook and cranny of the
Absolutely.
state, where
Absolutely.
talent pool has got empowered, it
Absolutely.
has got higher technical education, and it has some contribution to play
Absolutely.
at all levels.
See, I have a small map of map the UP with different states, how our institutions are located. I will forward it to you. You can use it. In different parts of UP, we have close to about 700 institutes. And you would see even in the remote and in the rural areas where you won't even have any other amenities, but you have a UP Technical
So in
University.
fact, for your information, in the year 2010, Engineering Watch was the first to draft that whole map of Uttar Pradesh, putting
Yes,
everything.
I am aware of it. Yes, yes.
So that was, we had started, and we had also
Yes.
created an engineering atlas of India,
Absolutely.
where India's 400 districts have got at least one engineering college.
Absolutely.
So we are also approaching those development makers, like let us saturate.
You know what is happening now?
Sir.
We are, in the last 18 months that I have been there, I am trying to create UP Technical University as the technical education hub of India. You know what we are catering to? We are catering to Jharkhand. We are catering to Bihar. These students are coming from Madhya Pradesh. Now students will be coming this year also from Haryana, Rajasthan and Delhi. And we are taking these students from different part of the states where this kind of education is not easily available.
So last but not the least, after the selection of the right branch, as you said, that it is more about going to any drill, and sir said that there are 5 major areas where you can just select your course. Now after a course, how to select a right college? Now what parameter should a student look at before choosing a particular college? I would start with Professor Joshi.
I think if I look at it from a student's perspective, many students look at the placement first to see what kind of salary students are getting on graduating from that college or university. But I think that's a little short-sighted, because I think if you are an engineer, you should look at your career as a marathon, not as a 100-meter sprint. In a marathon, the person who's leading in the first 100 meters normally doesn't end up winning the race. The one who wins the marathon is the guy who's been pacing himself appropriately. So what they should look for is, one, what is the kind of culture in the university or the college? Is it a culture where they can ask questions, where they can have teachers who have taught at a level which is like IITs or even NITs or other good colleges? So one is the environment. What kind of environment there is? What kind of peer group am I going to be with? That's very important, because when I went to IIT BHU or when I went to IIT Kanpur for my MTech, I learned more from my classmates rather than from my teachers. The teachers created an environment, but ultimately you do a lot of self-study. So if that kind of an environment is there and you have the right peer group and you have teachers who can handhold you, I think you are going to the right place. Placement will take care of itself. There should not be a lopsided emphasis on placement. But then youngsters, they today look at money.
So overall learning ecosystem is
Learning
something which
ecosystem,
a student should look
the
for.
freedom to not only study but play. I think we have put at GLA University, we have put a lot of emphasis on sports, because it's important to build the character of the student. The engineer cannot be just a technically sound person. He also needs to live in society. He needs to be strong physically and mentally to also take failures in his stride. How will he become an entrepreneur? Many engineers will end up becoming an entrepreneur, if not in the first 5 years of their career, maybe 25 years down the road. So by building an ecosystem that builds mental, physical, moral character, I think you can create the future of the country.
I think it's a tougher question for Professor Khandal.
No, tough. I tell you, it's very simple.
Sir.
It is like this. Any students choosing a college, in my opinion, there are 3 things which he has to see. Number 1 is who is going to teach him. Whether it is in India or UPTU or in the US, everybody chooses the university based on who are teaching. In fact, universities highlight, these are my professors, these are assistant professors, one thing. So who is going to teach you? Who are the people who are going to be your gurus? Number 2 is the tools available. Whether the colleges have the tools available, the laboratories are there. That tools available will also have the direct relevance to the linkages. What are the kind of linkages the colleges have? And the third, which is third or fourth, whatever you say, is the last but not the least, is because the students are going to spend 4 years there. Now, if you are going to spend 4 years in a place, you need a place to be nice, connected, all kind of amenities of the modern amenities like the Wi-Fi systems, the connectivity with the internet, all sorts of other amenities which students want to do, like sports, etc. So these are the 4 basic criteria. Now, how we are going to do it in UP Technical University? See, first and foremost thing is, when I joined UP Technical University, I was told that there are only limited 40-50 institutes which are quality institutes. Rest all are just, shops. I decided to go myself and see it for myself how it is. And you would be surprised to note, Mr. Mittal, People make conclusions without actually understanding it. I have been to these colleges, each and every college of UP Technical University. The edupreneurs are trying so hard to come up to the expectations, not just in UPTU, but at the international level. Each one of them, I went to remote areas like Banda, remote areas in Muzaffarpur, Shamli, where institutes are connected not within India with IIT and all that, but connected to MIT. Can you imagine? And they are not even talked about. So when I address the press, I tell them that look, you are only carried away with one or two institutes. There are so many institutes. So what we did is, we tried to bring institutes together. We started a scheme that is the Directors Conference. Let all directors sit together. Earlier there was a system that we will work in isolation. You know, when you work in isolation, you work like islands. But when you work together, you work like continent. So what I am trying to do, my mission and my objective of being there as a Vice Chancellor is that convert these islands into continent of technical education in UP. How it will happen? Through Directors Conference. Bringing good, for example, there is one institute which is comprehensive. Can you imagine? They have dairy in the institute. So all the milk in the hostels is supplied from the local dairy, from that. They have a bakery, they have their own bakery, because they have a farm behind it. So all the grains which are coming there are converted into bakery. So all bread and bakery is supplied to the hostels. And in fact to the nearby colleges also. Then the students are exposed to agriculture farms. Plus you have the SMEs nearby. You know, they are taken to the handicrafts area. So these are some of the things which we are trying to do it in UP Technical University to see that it becomes the hub of technical education.
Professor Khandal has put the entire debate and deliberation to rest. And an ever charismatic and very hopeful Vice Chancellor who says that not just 40 and 50 colleges are good. I have visited the nook and cranny of my state and all the colleges have some or the other unique voice in themselves, and that is where it showcases that these colleges have a role to play in the growth of the state and contribute to the national growth. I would like to thank all of you, sir.
No, but before ending, one point is remaining.
Sir.
I think we should address that.
Sir.
See, in India, we are so much of preoccupied with one simple concept, engineer, engineer, engineer. There are many other branches which are very connected to engineering. For example, fashion design. For example, architecture, like marine architecture, Joshi ji said. There are many branches which are sustainable architecture, green architecture.
They are seen in silos, they are not merged into...
They are not merged into engineering. Okay. So these are areas, for example, I just discovered in one of the convocations, I asked the lady, I said, Madam, where are you working with the degree? She says, sir, I have launched my own brand. For example, hotel management. Now, hotel management is not just management, but catering technology. You have food technology, you have food safety, so many, your sensory evaluation. Today, can you imagine, in France, we have so many evaluators of wine. You know, they check the wine, do it. But in India, which is known for food, do we have the food testers? We don't have. Do we have, suppose somebody wants to introduce new variety of biscuits in India and he wants to evaluate whether sensory point of view, South Indians will like it or North Indians. We don't have sensory evaluators. These are the areas in which now UP Technical University has started focusing on.
Okay. Yeah. That's really encouraging, because in a diversified economy, world over engineers are working in an interdisciplinary manner, and we already have silos because somewhere or the other we were just getting work from outside and doing it as per their dictum, and this is probably the first sign of self-reliance where our academic system is moving forward.
We will move UP Technical University from discipline-oriented to anti-discipline. The way the world is going. We will make it anti-discipline. We will call it engineer, but anti-discipline. I mean, he will comprehensively...
So last but not the least, one question, a bit ticklish one. Like, do you mind some of the best performers of your university moving out and creating their own ecosystem? Or how do you visualize that?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. You just imagine, suppose you are a businessman and one of your employees becomes an entrepreneur. I think you will be always happy. You will say, oh, so-and-so was working with me. So it is a question. Look,
so it's a mark of great success in the university curriculum.
It's a mark of our feather in the cap. Okay, suppose GLA has become university today. We are very proud of it. And you see, UP Technical University has so much of scope. Remember, our GER today in India is only 15%, and we have to go to 30% in just next 10 years. If you have to double You have to double number of institutes. You have to double the number of universities. We have only touched the tip of iceberg. I tell you, if we focus just on education, if Government of India focuses just the elections are going on. If their prime focus is only on education, I tell you, this itself is a big issue which can take India into developed world. We will be able to be called ourselves developed only when we have all 1,200 million people all educated, all completely innovative minds. We can win the worlds. You know, we don't have to go anywhere. People will come here. This is what my belief, and this is what we are trying to do it in UP Technical University.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think it was a fantastic interaction with Professor Khandal and Professor Joshi out there. For the sake of our viewers, Engineering Watch in its relentless spree to empower the engineering education in the country is working on a large number of innovative products and services. The portal whyengineering.in is a host of large number of information, illumining information about the careers, courses and colleges which to choose, and a lot of questions have been redressed out here. We do have created a helpline which will get active from 15th of June. The helpline is 011-4761-9646. This helpline would be manned by a large number of engineering students who are pursuing the second year and third year of their engineering. It will be routed through a cloud-based network, and all the probing questions which the students have with them, individual questions with them, they can answer over there. Engineering Watch is also coming up with a series of 5 booklets. Do you have a computer science engineer in you? Do you have a mechanical engineer in you? Do you have a civil engineer in you? Likewise, these books are also getting released on the 15th of June. You would be watching this episode till then, and you can log on to whyengineering.in and take advantage of these knowledge products and services which are being offered by Engineering Watch. I thank once again our panelists for such illumining interaction. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joshi ji. Very nice.
Thank you, Raghav.
Kitna सीखी